A quick warning, this episode will contain spoilers for The Running Man. We say we won't spoil it, but we end up doing so anyway, so if you haven't seen it and you're worried about spoilers, then we recommend coming back after you've seen the movie.
Hello and welcome back to the Film School Rejects podcast. Today we're discussing the new Edgar Wright film, The Running Man, starring Glenn Powell. I'm your co-host, Skye Winston, joined with...
I'm Billy Howells.
And before we get into our thoughts and opinions on The Running Man, I thought we'd go over the plot. The Running Man is a dystopian future ruled by a corporate media, often referred throughout the film as like the network. In this future, people live in poverty with very little access to healthcare, which is the main catalyst of the plot. Our protagonist, Ben Richards, played by Glenn Powell, who you may know from The Hitman, Billy's favourite, Anyone But You, or my favourite, Twisters. Is a blue-collar worker recently blacklisted due to reported unsafe work environments. His infant daughter, Kathy, has the flu. His wife, Sheila Richard, played by... I had it down. She was in Sinners. Who was the actor?
I don't know. I felt like I recognised her throughout, but I didn't know her name.
She was in Sinners. Sorry, I don't have the actor's name down my sheet. I thought I did. I put Sheila Richards.
I'll get it up quickly.
Anyway, she works as a hostess, and obviously between them, they can't afford the medicine for their infant daughter. And this, Edgar Wright so far in the very start of the film he's been very taunting with showing clips of various game shows, such as The Running Man. So while Ben is he's very adamant when he starts a trial that he's not going to do The Running Man, it seems to him it's his only way to help his daughter and The Running Man. So there's the contestants; these are the runners. They can win, is it $1 billion something dollars?
Yes.
It's a different currency, it is what it is. And if they survive for 30 days. However, they are on the run with not only the hunters by the network, but, which is the dark part for me, is that the civilians, the audience, the ordinary people around them can also take photos and call in. So Billy, what are your thoughts on the movie? I also do have our Rotten Tomato scores from our guesses.
Yes. We were both quite wrong. But, I mean, I think before we talk about our thoughts on the actual movie, I think it's kind of maybe important to set the ground on where we stand in terms of Edgar Wright. Because I think that's going to come in handy later. Skye does not agree with me on this, but Edgar Wright is one of my all-time favourite filmmakers. I have 3 of his movies in my top 20 of all time. I think he's an incredible filmmaker with such a distinct, amazing style that just grabs you. I love his sense of comedy, his sense of timing, his use of music. But he rarely ever fails to integrate story into all of that. He never does it for the sake of it. And yeah, I just love Edgar Wright. You don't feel the same?
No, I definitely don't like Edgar Wright as much as Billy does. And I think it's not because Scott Pilgrim vs. Film is a bad film. No, it is. I just think it's massively overhyped, and it's so gamey, and it kind of glitches in my head.
That's what I love about it.
His entire directorial style, I hate it. And this didn't feel like an Edgar Wright film to me, or at least where he was. Because this is a game show, it worked. It was the idea of the Hunger Games mixed with 1984, and because of probably his previous work and the budget, probably it didn't feel as flimsy as sometimes dystopian game shows can. As much as I love the Maze Runner, and I don't feel the same way about Detergent. What's it called? Divergent. That one. They sometimes the world doesn't feel as real, whereas this one felt like I could just go to Warner Studios and see it. You know what I mean? Like Harry Potter, that's an actual place. So I have to give Edgar Wright props for that. However, every other Edgar Wright film, other than Baby Driver, I kind of like Baby Driver, but I can't say I like Baby Driver anymore.
The Running Man was one of my most anticipated films of the year. A, because of Edgar Wright's involvement, and also he's co-writing this movie with the guy he co-wrote Scott Pilgrim with, so that was easily, for me, one of the reasons to go see this movie. But also, Edgar Wright is collaborating with Glenn Powell, who is quickly becoming one of my favourite actors. Everything he is in, whenever I hear he's in something, I instantly become more excited for that movie. because Glenn Powell just has such a natural charisma that just I feel like Glenn Powell could play the most evil person in a film, and I'd try and sympathise with him because he's just got that charisma that's just, it's so easy to watch him.
See, and Billy's always been on the Glenn Powell train. I can raise my hands up. I think I watched 5 minutes of Set It Up the very first time, like way before Twisters, and I was like, oh, I can't stand this man at all. And then I went and saw Twisters, and I love Twisters, so I was seeing it regardless that Glenn Powell was in it. And then watched Twisters, and I was like, oh my goodness, who is this man?
Yeah.
He's such a good, like, and that's probably one of his better acting films as well, in if we're going comparison, but also he has more to work with in Twisters. And then I was like, okay, I will give Set Up a try, and I loved it. And I watched The Hitman. It was a little bit goofy. I think it's the plot kind of lost me. Anyone but you, he could play like such a raw person in it, even though it's very cheaply written rom-com. I loved him in
That's the charm of Anyone But You.
Yeah, it's the charm. We can move past it. I really loved him in this because he had such like, well, for once in his life he wasn't. I mean, we did get to see his abs, but that's normally like such a front shallow part of Glenn Powell's characters. Is they're like, oh, he's like washboard abs, you know, he's good looking. Obviously this is set in a different time. So you already straight away he gets to be like blacklisted, and he's the person that's representing, like, he wants a better workplace for people. But there's a bit near the end where he like crashes out, and just the build up in his face, and I mean, it was very close to his face. It could have been maybe a little bit further, especially on the cinema screen. That's quite a big close up. But you could just see it building, and then when he crashed out, oh, it was so raw. And it made me very emotional. I was emotional in the middle.
I mean, I think the thing I love one of the things I love the most about this movie is that Glenn Powell is, I mean, in everything he's done, he's been able to show off a new kind of skill. And in this, I really feel like more than anything he's done before, he got to show an anger, a rage that I've never seen him do before. And he did it so convincingly. I really bought into, you know, his character's anger and how he kind of had to hold back it. And it made him really compelling, and Glenn Powell just pulled it off so effectively. Yeah,
no, I think he did incredible. It wasn't just him though. There was brilliant actors throughout this, the film, The Running Man, that really brought it together. You had the leader of the network.
Josh Brolin, he's really good.
Yes.
But Coleman Domingo is having the time of his life.
He smashed it.
Yeah.
He was charismatic. He was cunning and evil.
Yeah.
It completely worked. Yeah, him and Stanley Tucci are the best game show hosts ever made.
Yeah.
Don't ever let them in an actual game show.
Oh no, I want to see these. I want to see a spin-off crossover movie where these two characters come together.
But I do think throughout, it was very good to me. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't what I had anticipated. I was like, I'm gonna enjoy it because it's Glenn Powell. The Edgar Wright part, I'm not really sure. The Stephen King part, yeah, let's go. I think it's a long film.
It's very fast-paced.
I would say it's very fast-paced. That works because it's obviously it's a TV show, and I think it's very long. It didn't feel long to me, but I can.
This movie didn't feel like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
I think because you have how many days it's been that he's there, and it's action-packed, but along with these actions are also how he feels and the emotive, and there's quite a lot of messages throughout the film about like the working and lower class coming together. Obviously, it's just one lower class, and it's about what the network does and all this propaganda and stuff, and it's like these are the levels that the network has control over. Like there's even this one part where it's like DNA detectives, which is so cheating.
Yeah.
Like, that's not fair. That's cheating. That is completely cheating.
I think my favourite thing about this movie, and I definitely have my issues, I'll get into that in a minute, but my favourite thing about this movie, I think, is actually the world building and how well it sets up this world, because it really sets up the stakes in a way where you understand what these characters are going through, what's at stake for them, how the world around them is just completely failing them, and it's a really easy way for you to feel for them and to understand Ben's motivation for going on the Running Man. I just think the way Edgar Wright and Michael Bacall set up this world is really, really interesting, and I think they captured a Stephen King essence really well.
On the ideas of things that you dislike and do like, I personally kind of hate montages in general. However, when they were doing the training and the trials, when they were flipping between what he was doing, trials for the Running Man, so it was just a game show, and then they were actually doing his real life when he's been fired by all these places, and you see how dangerous they were. I really liked that. I was like, that's a good way to invert where the story has been in his entire life and stuff like that, without shoving it down my throat.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to do the trials part, like, that's fine. So I kind of like that montage, and I'm not a fan of montages, so I think it was well done.
Going into my main issue, and this is why I wanted to talk about Edgar Wright at the start, because this is, I think, my big issue is the reason you like this movie. My biggest issue with this movie is that it's not an Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah! Celebration! Thank goodness.
The action in this movie is not bad at all. It's well done, it's competent. But Edgar Wright is so much better than competent. Like, the action in Hot Fuzz and Baby Driver, he knows how to make an incredibly immersive and stylistic action sequence. There is so little of that here. And Edgar Wright is such a distinctive director. When you're watching an Edgar Wright movie, you know you're watching an Edgar Wright movie. And I rarely got that. You know that montage sequence you were describing? That's maybe the one scene in the movie where I was like, okay, there's Edgar Wright.
I think Edgar Wright was in the Michael Cena. That bit.
Michael? Oh, yeah. I mean,
that was very, like, so it's like a Home Alone.
Yeah, that was a fun sequence.
If you haven't seen it, the Hunters, like, he wants to see the Hunters because the Hunters are, like, ex-police and whatever, and they've killed his dad, who was, like, against the network. So he sets up all these booby traps, and it's kind of really goofy. And he also has tried to grow a beard, which Michael said, if you're watching this, please don't. It's okay to know when to stop. It's quite comical. It's also, like, really, like, intense, because also this is obviously, this part I feel is very Edgar Wright, right? But for Stephen King, I'm thinking, oh, like, Glenn's gonna die. Like, it's a Stephen King novel. The main character can die at any point, which is why I feel like it's captivating for me, at least known as a Stephen King novel. But I think it was the most, like, Edgar Wright thing I've ever seen. There was secret passageways. There was, like, water guns.
That was fun.
And they were getting electrified.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was goofy. Whimsical.
Yeah, again, the action isn't bad, but, like, some of it even just felt lazy. Like, there's one sequence where they just strap cameras to a car. I'm just like, Edgar, you are so much better than that. And it was a frustrating watch for me. As a fan of Edgar Wright, the first act of this movie, I could kind of forgive the fact it wasn't particularly stylistic, because you need to set up this dystopian world, and maybe Edgar Wright's style doesn't quite slide into dystopian, right? But as the movie goes on, we have more action, we have more space for the film to get creative and stylistic. But I've seen Edgar Wright's movies, and he can direct action so much better than this.
To me, Edgar Wright action always was like anime or cartoon.
That's what I like about it, though. It's
but I
so
feel
distinct.
Like that doesn't fit in a dystopian world, though. Like, this isn't a funny. This is like, this man is fighting for his life, not for him, but so that he can go home to his daughter.
Yeah,
and you have so many people dying left, right, and centre, and they don't care. The Hunters don't care how many, like, civilians get caught in the crossfire, which is the point. The network doesn't care about ordinary people, even if they say they do. They never have.
But you can still have stakes and style. They can go hand in hand. Baby Driver, that's a movie about a guy who's just trying to support. That's also a movie that really is a guy trying to support his family. And yet that movie has some of the most stylistic, recognisable action. I was rewatching the opening scene the other day. I was just like, oh my god, this is so well done. There is just none of that here. And yeah, I just really feel like the action and the style. I think this is a good movie. I enjoyed this movie. It's well paced. The acting's great. It looks amazing. But I think if this movie had been an Edgar Wright movie, we could be talking about my favourite film of the year.
Well, that's fine, because if it was an Edgar Wright movie, I probably wouldn't have listed it so high. I would have got lost and been like, what is this? I was very surprised. I knew what the film is, because obviously it's not the first film. This is the second adaptation of a Stephen King novel. The first one was in 1977? No.
It was later than that. I think it was late 80s, 90s.
Something like that. I didn't have the date. It's somewhere.
The Running Man came out in 1987.
So maybe it was just like toned down Edgar Wright. And you know what? Maybe that's not a bad thing.
But for me as well, it's kind of maybe starting a little bit of a worry that maybe Edgar Wright is maybe moving away from his general style. Because Last Night in Soho, it definitely had Edgar Wright moments, and it honestly feels more like an Edgar Wright movie than this. But Last Night in Soho, it wasn't anything he'd done before. It was a different genre, and I am worrying that he's slowly moving away, and he's becoming more studio friendly, which I hate. I really wish he wasn't, because his best movies, I mean, Edgar Wright movies notoriously have not done well at the box office. I think is the only Edgar Wright movie that's done amazingly well is Baby Driver, but apart from that, Shaun of the Dead did well for what it was made for, but then Hot Fuzz, World's End, Scott Pilgrim flopped. Edgar Wright is not a box office friendly director, so I am kind of worrying that he's toning down his style in order to get these bigger budgets and work with these big stars, which I'm not opposed to, again, because one of the big reasons I was excited for this movie was Edgar Wright and Glenn Powell. That sounds like an amazing combination. But I want to see Glenn Powell in an Edgar Wright movie.
I don't think Glenn Powell could pull off an Edgar Wright film.
I think he could.
I don't think I'd want to watch it, but I think he could pull it off.
I think Glenn Powell can pull off anything, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's a very versatile actor. I don't think he's recognised for his versatile acting, but I think you could plot him in any movie and he'll be like, okay, let's go. I definitely liked hair and makeup and costume design in this. I think it was a very important part, because a lot of people, especially Glenn Powell does have a very, like, celebrity, like, Hollywood kind of face. Like, he's very clean cut.
They managed to really rough him down for this.
Yeah, so to make him, like, look like that was really good. And the costumes and everything.
The cinematography is beautiful as well. Like, it's a vibrant movie, yet, like, it does feel really gritty. And you feel the dystopian, like, everything is fucked up in this world. They're probably going to watch this, so they'll know I'm stealing it from them. But I was speaking to someone who saw the movie yesterday, and they summed it up perfectly, is that Edgar Wright is one of those directors who has almost become a genre in and of himself. Like, you say you're going to see an Edgar Wright movie, people know what you mean. And that is going to draw people in. So I know I'm not the only person that feels this way, because this movie has, a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes now. And a lot of the complaints is, where's Edgar Wright?
Yeah, so speaking of which, I won.
Yep. I thought I was going to be...
I have the tally down here. It says Billy 76, Skye 71.
And the thing is, I made that prediction when the first reactions came out, and I was kind of worrying, did I go too low? Like, should I have gone 80s, 90s? I wouldn't have been opposed to doing that, because Edgar Wright's track record, critically, is really, really good. Like if I get up his Rotten Tomatoes quickly, why is his highest rated The Sparks Brothers? That's his worst movie. Okay, so Shaun of the Dead, 92, Hot Fuzz, 91, Scott Pilgrim, 83, that's way too low. Also, he wrote The Adventures of Tintin, Steven Spielberg's Tintin movie. The World's End, 89, Baby Driver, 92, The Sparks Brothers, which is a documentary. I hated The Sparks Brothers. That is the one Edgar Wright movie I straight up dislike.
But I do also think that your point is probably true, But he's also wanted to direct this film for like 8 years. Like he tweeted about it.
Even longer than that.
He's wanted to do this adaptation, and maybe he wanted to prove that he can do the
big
blockbuster
budget
films.
Yeah,
he wanted to prove himself, and he has. He's got obviously critics maybe not, but he's got the IMAX. He has the IMAX. He has the big screens. So at least like budgetly, they went, yeah, we're gonna make this into a blockbuster.
But the thing is, I feel like if Edgar Wright wanted to go blockbuster, I've never felt The Running Man was actually gonna make money, and it's not. The movie had like over $100 million budget. It's projected to make like 15 million opening weekend. This movie's gonna flop, and I knew that at the beginning of the year, because again, apart from Baby Driver, Edgar Wright is not a box office friendly director. And yeah, I think the reviews are going to taint it. Because again, people go in expecting... I feel like I'm a broken record saying this, but it is... I can't get over the fact. People are going into this... Edgar Wright is the big name on the poster, and Glenn Powell obviously as well, but on big words, Edgar Wright, the director of Baby Driver, Edgar Wright, the director of the Cornetto trilogy. You know, that's a big selling point. And
So
I feel like
other
people are going to be
than-
disappointed.
Edgar Wright, is there any other low parts of the film that you don't like?
I think I will say this. There's a character introduced in the third act, played by Emilia Jones, who her character does have a point initially, but the film keeps her around for way too long. I was
Is
like,
that the upper rich girl?
yeah, the one he meets in the car, and which that car scene, I completely get her character's point there, and that worked. But she stays with him for much longer. I was like, why are you here? Like, you are adding nothing to this. Maybe even more than Baby Driver. This feels most like Edgar Wright's most American film. Like,
Yes, there's a lot of
especially in the
American
themes. And yeah. I mean, again, maybe that kind of goes back to the fact it doesn't feel like Edgar Wright directed this. But yeah, like, even more than Baby Driver, which feels like an American movie. It's got mostly an American cast. It's set in America, but like thematically at its core, like what The Running Man is about, it feels so much like about America.
Because you even have like, and I think it's a very on the nose shot, but I really loved it. It was like the American flag was behind all the fountains.
Yeah, it's in
as
all
they
the
went
trailers.
off.
Yeah.
It was very on the nose. I kind of liked it though, because it was kind of about corruption and everything. I do think it's an interesting time to obviously release it. For context clues, if you cannot tell by our accents, we are not American. I think it's also why we can enjoy this film more, because I think...
Maybe that is an interesting thing about a British guy making this movie, though. That, yeah, a lot of this is coming from...
The healthcare is really centre,
Yeah.
because when he meets the family that takes him, their sister/daughter is dying of lung cancer, and it's because of the area nearby, which as someone in Britain, I do know that was a thing. Here, I know, not really, I know a lot more case studies, especially in Detroit, in America, where that like actually happened, where people live near all these factories that do cause lung cancer and everything like that, and then you don't have any access to healthcare.
Yeah.
So whilst we and other people in Britain can laugh more at this movie about healthcare, it's like a real problem, and I think it's interesting to release the movie now.
Well, the thing is, like, the messaging in this movie is very on the nose. Like, the film isn't subtle about it, but I'm okay with that, because I don't think it should be. Like,
It's a
film like
dystopian
this.
film.
Yeah.
Like, dystopian films
Dystopian
are
isn't
the genre.
subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you're always supposed to critique government systems when you're doing a dystopian.
Yeah.
This isn't just like a normal film, right?
Yeah.
Where we're just following this guy, and it's an action film.
It's not a film
like-
that's that's trying to have political undertones.
Yeah,
Like, it's
political
trying to
adjacent.
make it
It is
like, yeah, it's front and center. It's a part of the narrative.
Yeah, like Captain America: Civil War, right, is politically adjacent. It's still a Disney movie, but it has politics within
Yeah.
it, and it has so many things that can then relate to real life.
Yes.
But this is the problems that we have right now.
Yeah.
And this is like kind of a scale, but you aren't realizing this is how bad it is.
I feel like like the past few years, I've become less bothered by films politically being on the nose. Like, Don't Look Up is probably the most like politically on the nose film to come out in the last 5-10 years. That was one of my favourite movies of the year it came out. But again, because of what that movie is about, that movie is saying, look, you guys are not seeing this. Like, so it had to be on the nose. It had to shove it in your face because that's what the film is about and what it's trying to tell you. And I feel like that is what more and more movies are doing these days, is that they're trying to say, look, none of you are paying attention, or no one's talking about these issues as much as they should be, so we're just going to give them to you. We're not going to hint at them, or...
Because obviously First Impression is an Edgar Wright film, but if you then look much lower, you then see Stephen King adaptation. That should really be your warning sign.
The final, 5 minutes, I thought it wrapped up really well. Like, the final scene in the movie, I loved.
I knew it though. I knew it was coming, and I knew what was going to happen, and we won't spoil it. But Glenn Powell's acting towards it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think the way they summed it up was mainly like the YouTube thing, which we got introduced at the start. So I think that was a good roundup, and it's a way to do it quicker, without having to elongate it. And I think the last scene was beautiful. We got the shopping bit, and then you got the game, and I think it was summed up really well.
Yeah.
And I think some people would be like, well, he's never really been political at the start, so why is he being political at the end? At the start, he just wanted his daughter's healthcare.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the same at the end.
He's watching like all these people that they don't care about, and he's getting angrier.
I don't think he becomes political, though. I don't think, as you said, he's not really political at the beginning, but I don't think he becomes political by the end of the movie.
I think he's always politically adjacent throughout the film, because obviously he does have why he's blacklisted and you see his reaction to the girl dying of lung cancer, and you see his little, so they have to record throughout so that you can see their background, so you can kind of guess where they are, and he's being political in that, but his main priority is just his daughter.
Yes.
And getting her healthcare. It's kind of the same premise, I'd say, as Katniss Everdeen with the Hunger Games. She's politically adjacent. She's aware that this is not a place that she wants children in, and all of that, and she thinks it's wrong. But
really, she's doing it for her sister.
Yeah, her prime objective is to get to her sister. And then she keeps doing these things that are smaller, but it's primarily just because she's trying to then exist in this world where she's won the Hunger Games. Yeah. And she's just trying to be nice, and she's trying to do these things for people, and that's what keeps cutting at her. Yeah. And that's what makes her into the Mockingjay. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have your own opinions on Edgar Wright, positive for Billy or negative for me, that'd be perfect. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.